We have been talking about this for months. Delays, negotiations, arguments, political disagreements, dates moving backwards and forwards. And every single time it looked like America was finally going to get a proper crypto regulation, something seemed to get in the way. But now we have a major development because finally the Clarity Act is being lined up for a vote in the United States of America's Senate. And if you've been following this channel for any length of time, you'll know just how important I think this legislation could potentially be for the entire crypto industry. Not just Bitcoin, not just XRP, not just Ethereum. The entire American crypto industry is at stake here. Because for years, one of the biggest problems crypto has faced in the United States hasn't necessarily been a lack of demand. It's been a lack of clarity. And we may finally be getting closer to changing that. But before we get into exactly what's happening, there's something new on YouTube that I wanted to show you very quickly. YouTube has recently expanded its shopping features, meaning creators can now tag certain products directly in videos. And so many of you constantly ask me about this, my Tangem ring. This is the cold storage ring you see me wearing in practically every single video. So I thought I'd actually tag it in this video for anybody who's been asking where I got it from. And particularly if you're from here in the UK, YouTube Shopping can now connect you with products available through participating UK retailers, making the whole process much easier. Not only is the ring available, but you can also go and get your Tangem 2 and 3 card packs. Tangem is my preferred method of cold storage. Personally, I don't like leaving significant amount of crypto sitting on exchanges. An exchange is somewhere that I go to trade, but cold storage is where I prefer to actually keep my crypto. But if you've been asking about the Tangem ring, have a look at the products that I've tagged in this video. And if you do buy something through one of my links or the product tags, it also helps support this channel, which I massively appreciate. Right, let's get back to the Clarity Act because this is big. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has now officially taken action to advance the legal legislation. He has filed for a procedural vote that is expected to take place after senators return from their August recess. Now, I want to explain what that actually means because there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding, especially on TikTok when I was looking yesterday. Because I've already seen the Clarity Act is going to a vote. And broadly, yes, that is where this is heading. But there are still stages to get through. The first vote is essentially about moving the legislation forward through the Senate process. And one of the key numbers that you need to remember is the number 60. Republicans are expected to need enough Democratic support to reach that 60 vote threshold and move the legislation forward. So this is absolutely not me telling you that the Clarity Act has passed. It hasn't. And I'm not telling you the passage is guaranteed either, because it isn't, no matter what TikTok is telling you. But what I am saying is that after everything that we've been through, we finally appear to be approaching the moment where senators are going to have to show their hand. And that is what makes this so interesting. For a long time, crypto regulation in America has been debated theoretically. Everybody says they want regulatory clarity. Everybody says they want innovation. Everybody says America shouldn't fall behind the rest of the world. Well, eventually politicians actually have to vote. And that moment now looks like it's getting much closer. So why do I think this matters so much? Because the fundamental purpose of the Clarity Act is all in the name: clarity. One of the biggest questions surrounding cryptocurrencies in the United States of America has been, what actually is a crypto asset? When is something considered a security? When is something considered a commodity? Who regulates what? When does the SEC have jurisdiction? When does the CFTC have jurisdiction? What rules should exchanges follow? What rules should token issuers follow? And what about decentralized networks? Those aren't boring technical questions. These questions determine whether businesses are willing to invest billions of dollars building infrastructure around this industry. Imagine being the CEO of a huge financial company. You want to enter crypto. You've got shareholders, you've got regulators, you've got lawyers, you've got billions of dollars at stake. What is the one thing you absolutely hate? It's uncertainty. Businesses work with strict rules. They can work with expensive rules. They can work with complicated rules. What is incredibly difficult to work with is not knowing what the rules are. And that is why I've consistently said that regulation doesn't automatically have to be bad for crypto. Good regulation can actually be incredibly bullish for crypto because clarity reduces uncertainty. And reduced uncertainty can potentially unlock investment. That's the bigger picture here. And this is particularly interesting for people who follow XRP. Now, I need to make something very clear. This is not an XRP bill, no matter what TikTok is telling you right now. The Clarity Act isn't being written specifically for Ripple. Again, no matter what TikTok is telling you right now, it isn't legislation designed specifically to make XRP go up. But anybody who has followed XRP for the last several years knows how important regulatory uncertainty has been to its story. Ripple spent years fighting the SEC. XRP holders spent years watching arguments over whether tokens could be considered securities. Exchanges reacted to regulatory uncertainty. Who remembers Coinbase delisting XRP? Because I do. The businesses, they also reacted to the uncertainty, and investors reacted to regulatory uncertainty. So naturally, when the United States starts moving towards legislation designed to create clearer classifications for digital assets, XRP holders are going to pay attention. And I think they should. But here's where I want to separate myself from some of the ridiculous stuff you've probably seen online. Passing the Clarity Act does not mean XRP automatically goes up to $10. It does not mean Bitcoin automatically goes to 250,000 US dollars. It doesn't mean every crypto project suddenly becomes legitimate. Markets just simply don't work like that. What legislation like this potentially does is change the environment crypto operates within. And sometimes the environment is more important than the immediate price reaction. Think about the bigger institutional picture. You've got Bitcoin ETFs, you've got institutional custody, you've got major asset managers entering this market. You've got tokenization becoming an increasingly serious topic. You've got stablecoins becoming part of the political conversations. You've got banks looking at blockchain technology. You've got Wall Street infrastructure moving closer and closer towards digital assets. And one enormous question still hangs over it all. What are the rules? The Clarity Act is an attempt to answer that. And this is why I think this vote could ultimately become one of those moments people look back on. Not necessarily because everything suddenly pumped the following morning, but because America potentially moves from regulating crypto primarily through uncertainty and enforcement towards actually creating a framework that people can understand. And that's a very different environment. Now, there are still obstacles. Democrats have raised concerns around areas including ethics provisions, conflicts of interest, anti-money laundering safeguards, and other parts of this legislation. There's also been opposition from sections of the traditional banking industry because they're really worried about how they're going to compete with crypto in the traditional deposits. So there is still negotiation happening. There are still political battles happening, and there could be absolutely still be amendments because that's just the way politics works. But here's the part that makes me bullish today. We are no longer sitting here asking, will they ever actually bring this thing forward? We're now getting closer to, do you vote yes or do you vote no? And that changes the conversation again, especially with the US midterm elections getting closer. Politicians know the crypto industry is watching. Crypto voters are watching. Companies are watching. Investors are watching. And the United States also knows that crypto innovation doesn't have to happen in America. If America regulation becomes too hostile, too uncertain, capital can move elsewhere. Developers can move, companies can move, innovation can move. We've already seen jurisdictions around the world trying to build clearer regulatory frameworks. America has a choice: lead the industry or make it clear for somebody else to do it first. And perhaps now we're finally approaching the point where they make that decision. So yes, after all these delays, after all these political arguments, after all these negotiations, and after watching deadlines come and go, the Clarity Act is finally being lined up for a Senate vote. That does not mean it's passed. It doesn't mean the outcome is guaranteed. But this is progress. And for an industry that has spent years asking Washington for clear rules, progress matters. So now I want to know what you think. Do you believe the Clarity Act gets through the Senate? And perhaps the bigger question, if America finally gives crypto regulatory clarity, how big could that be for the next phase of adoption? Let me know in the comments what you're thinking. And if you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you subscribe to the channel because we're covering this story all the way through. Also, underneath this video, you may see a YouTube hype button. If it's available to you, please hit that hype video button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it can help YouTube discover and push growing channels like this one to more people. So if you enjoyed the content, give this video a hype and help us continue building this community. And finally, don't forget the UK Crypto Podcast. New episodes come out every single Friday at 7 PM UK time. You can watch or listen on YouTube, Spotify and TikTok. I'll put the UK Crypto Podcast playlist somewhere above my head at the end of this video. So if you fancy hearing longer, deeper conversations about what's happening across crypto, click that playlist and dive straight into the latest episode. Subscribe, hit the hype button and keep watching this space because after months of waiting, the Clarity Act vote is finally coming.